Have a jury, please.
All rise for the jury.
Everybody be seated except the witness. If you would face the clerk and be sworn, raise your right hand, please.
Swear affirm testimony you have given this case will be free from truth and nothing but truth and nothing but truth.
I do.
Have a seat, please, ma'am.
What is your name?
Hi, I'm June Umchinda.
Will you please spell Umchinda?
Umchinda.
Where do you live?
I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Do you know Charlie Adelson?
I do.
How do you know Mr. Adelson?
He's my ex-boyfriend.
What were the periods of time that you dated Mr. Adelson?
We dated from October 2015 to June 2017 about.
Okay, and was that steady or was that kind of off and on?
Well, it was off and on. I would say like it was steady for a year and then, you know, a little break. I'm still in touch with him now, but we're not together.
Okay. When was the last time you spoke to Mr. Adelson?
Yesterday.
And has Mr. Adelson ever talked to you about the murder of Dan Markel?
He has, because it's a big, you know, thing right now, so we did obviously speak about it.
Mm-hmm. And he's never made any admissions to you, has he, about being involved in the murder?
No.
All right. Did he ever, I don't know, let me ask you this. Around the time of May 2016 when the arrests were made in this case, or some arrests were made and there was some media attention increased, did you notice a change in the behavior of Mr. Adelson?
Yes, I did.
Could you explain that to the jury, please?
He was just acting stressed and irrational. Were you talking about when the media broadcasted everything or beforehand when people were were arrested?
Why don't we start with when people were arrested? Did you notice a change in his behavior at that time?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, obviously they were tracing things back to him, so he was nervous and worried and just not himself.
Okay. And was he doing things like sleeping with a gun?
He did, but he usually does that. So.
Oh, he did that anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you just noticed that his demeanor had changed. He seemed to be more stressed out.
There was something about him, and he wouldn't really tell me. So, yes, he was stressed out.
So he wouldn't tell you really what the problem was?
No.
Okay. Would you routinely sleep over at his place during the time that you were a couple?
I slept there every night, yeah.
And where was he living at that time?
Will Harbor Lane, where he lives now.
All right. And what does Mr. Adelson do for a living?
He's a periodontist.
Did you ever observe him engaging in any type of gang-related activities?
No.
Did you ever see him interacting with or associating with any known gang members?
No.
Did you observe him dealing in cocaine?
No, definitely not.
Purchasing cocaine? Using cocaine?
No, never.
All right. Did you observe Mr. Adelson to have large amounts of cash?
Yes.
Like how much?
I don't know. I've never seen all of it, but I know he has access to it in his house.
All right. Where is it kept in his house?
It's in his bedroom in a safe.
All right. Is it like a small safe or one that's like the size of a refrigerator?
Like a refrigerator.
And is there anything unusual about the way Mr. Adelson packages his cash?
No, I've never seen it physically. Like, I don't look in his safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen him take money out of it.
Okay, so you didn't. Do you recall giving a statement back on July 24th, 2018 to law enforcement?
Yes, and I wanted to say at that time, obviously, he just had a baby with someone else, and that's the primary reason we broke up. So when I gave that interview, the baby was 6 months old, and Bree moved into the house, and they got a dog, and I thought I would never speak to him again. So I was obviously, hurt and angry. And
Okay. So were you lying to law enforcement back in July 24th, 2018 because of your
No.
anger? Okay. So I want to ask you specifically in that interview, did you talk about observing large amounts of cash lying around the house when you were dating Charlie Adelson?
Yes.
Okay. And did you talk about a particular way that the money was separated or packaged?
I did mention that there was a staple on one of them, so I kind of joked to him about it.
In fact, you said that the money was stapled into stacks of $100 bills, didn't you?
They were hundreds, yes, and
Okay.
I don't know if they were stacks, but there was a staple on it.
You didn't say that there were multiple stacks of $100 bills that were stapled?
Not that I saw, no.
Okay. And did you know how much, I guess if you didn't see any stacks, you don't know how much money was in the stacks?
Right.
Okay. Did you see him actually stapling the money?
No.
Right. Did you know where the cash came from?
No.
Okay. Did Mr. Adelson give you a lot of gifts during the time that you were dating?
No.
What about after you were dating? Did you get any gifts after you broke up?
I mean, I got usual birthday gifts and such, like Christmas, but not anything out of the ordinary.
Okay. Did he buy you any cars?
No.
Did he pay for any trips for you to go on your own without him?
No, he helped me visit my sister for her wedding in Seattle.
Okay. And was that during the time you were dating or after you broke up?
During.
Okay. What about Catherine Magbanua? Do you know who she is?
I've seen her once. I have never physically met her, so no.
Where did you see her?
Well, we met briefly. I would say see or met. She worked at Jerry's, the dermatologist's front desk. So when I walked in, I was a patient of Jerry's, and briefly, she greeted me.
All right. And what dermatologist was that she worked for?
Broward Dermatology.
All right. And the person you referred to as Jerry, that's Dr. Obed?
Yes.
And that was somebody who was close with Mr. Adelson?
Yes.
All right. And were they roommates at some point?
Yes.
Okay. So Ms. Magbanua was working at the dermatology office. Do you know the time frame that you observed her working there?
No, I saw her for a second, so I don't even know if she recalls.
Okay. And did you notice an increase in Mr. Adelson's contact with Ms. Magbanua after the media attention started in reference to this case?
No.
Do you remember giving that statement back on July 24th, 2016 to law enforcement?
I remember something was brought up about Catherine's car needed to be fixed, so that was brought up, and I mentioned it to him, just asking about it.
Okay, and did you tell law enforcement that Charlie started talking to Catherine a lot more after the media attention started?
I noticed he met with her twice, I would say.
Okay.
So.
Did you ever know?
Maybe about 2 times.
Did you ever know of Catherine Magbanua working for Charlie at his dental practice? I'm sorry. Yeah, periodontal practice.
No, I met him after he was with Catherine, so.
Okay, and when you met him in October of 2015, Ms. Magbanua was not employed at his office, to your knowledge?
I actually met Charlie, it's like a year ago before that, but we reconnected a year later.
All right, I guess during any of the time that you knew Mr. Adelson, were you aware of Ms. Magbanua working at his office? Okay. Did you ask Mr. Adelson about the paychecks that were going to Ms. Magbanua?
Objection, personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Did Mr. Adelson ever express to you interest in purchasing a BMW for Ms. McBanois?
No.
Did you tell law enforcement back on July 24th, 2016 that Charlie wanted to get her a BMW before the case, but said he couldn't do it because the cops were watching his spending?
Objection, misleading the jury.
I'll overrule that objection.
Did you make that statement to law
No.
enforcement? You did not?
It was tough, huh?
I don't know if they confused it. Like I was asking for a BMW. I actually got one myself now, but before then I was talking to Charlie about it, and he just says, you know, there's so much going on.
Okay, so you were referring to yourself. That
Yes.
he considered buying a BMW for you, but could not.
It was brought up. He didn't consider it. He, you know, just a lot of, once the case started, everything kind of changed, so.
Okay, thank you. Did Mr. Adelson ever mention to you giving Catherine McBanois a Lexus that his dad wanted to get rid of?
Yes.
And did he mention to you that he collected any money from Ms. McBanois in exchange for the Lexus?
No, it was in her name though, I believe.
Okay, so your understanding was that he gave it to her as a gift?
Objection, proper opinion. Also speculation. That's it.
I sustained the objection.
Would it refresh your recollection in reference to your prior statements regarding the money that you saw around Mr. Adelson's residence to see a transcript of your interview?
No.
Objection, improper reference. Adjourn.
All right. One moment, please, Your Honor. All right, did you say back on July 24th, 2018, quote, but there was always stacks of hundreds like a lot of cash in there. I don't know exactly. Agent Sanford said, yeah. Thousands and thousands of dollars, you think? And your answer was yeah. Agent Sanford, stacks of hundreds?
Objection, improper impeachment.
Overruled.
Your answer, yeah, like, it's like dollars to him. Like he, does that sound like what you said on the interview?
Something along the lines of that.
Okay, exactly that, right? Or do you have a reason to think the transcript is incorrect?
No, I mean, if I believe I was recorded without my knowledge during the transcript, so if that's what it said, then that's what I said. I don't remember.
Okay. And did you also say on that occasion when you were interviewed by law enforcement, so I was always like, who staples money and stuff? Like, use a paper clip or something. And then there's a question, so you've seen his money stapled together, answer, yeah. Was that your statement?
Yes, so I mentioned he had the staples on the hundreds before.
And then did you also say, one thing I did, like, I thought was weird was, I had one time, like, he was giving money to count or something, and all of his money is, like, stapled together, the hundreds in bundles.
Objection, improper impeachment.
Overruled.
Did you make that statement, Ms. Umchinda?
I don't recall.
Okay,
I
and
don't
it would not
remember.
refresh your recollection to review the transcript?
Objection, improper impeachment.
Overruled.
I can. If it's there, then I'm assuming I made it.
You let her read it. That's
Sure.
the
So
capital.
I don't.
Page 42, lines 18 through 23. It's small, so it's this portion here. Just take a moment and review it. Does it refresh your memory at all?
Yes, we did talk about the stapled money, so
Okay, so you did make that statement.
yes.
Okay. One moment, please, Your Honor.
You bet.
No further questions.
Garcia.
Thank you, Judge.
Good morning.
Morning.
I represent Mr. Garcia, and I'm going to ask you some questions with regards to your involvement in this case, okay?
Okay.
Now, you said on direct examination that you were unaware that you were being recorded. Is that correct?
Yes.
And just so I can get a better understanding, did law enforcement come to your home, or did you get summoned to go to a police station?
They've came to my home multiple times, like banging on my door, and throughout the year, they came to my homes, attempted about like 2 or 3 times until I finally got a hold of someone to get the subpoena back then.
So the date in question, what is the date of it?
July 24th.
2018?
Yes, sir.
So the government's been referring to a transcript of an interview that you were involved in on July 24th, 2018, correct?
Yes.
And this interview, did it take place at a police station, at your home?
It was in my condo lobby at my home.
When you were involved in the interaction with law enforcement, was there a stenographer there taking notes?
Not that I can recall. There were two officers.
And I'm asking this because it was your direct testimony, that you said that you didn't know you were being recorded. So I would assume they didn't advise you that we're recording this statement?
Right.
Did they give you an opportunity to review the transcript to see if there's any problems with it?
I didn't even know they took what I said and put it anywhere, so.
So you wouldn't know when they turned the recording on versus them not recording, correct?
I'm sorry, what was
Let me ask that again, I'm sorry. So
No,
since
it's
you
okay.
didn't know they were recording it, it would be impossible for you to know when they began recording it, correct?
Right.
So you can't tell the members of this jury whether or not prior to the beginning of this recording that they discussed stapling the money together, correct?
Correct.
Now you were with Charlie Adelson from October of 2015
Yes.
until June of 2016.
17.
I'm sorry, 17. Almost a 2-year relationship, correct?
Yes.
And it was your testimony that you would spend almost every night at his house, correct?
Yes.
During this 2 years, did you ever see him smoke marijuana?
Yes.
Did you ever see him take any kind of bodybuilding supplements?
No.
You know he went to a gym, correct?
Yes.
He would work out?
Would I work out or?
I'm sorry, no.
I'm sorry.
He would work out, right?
Yes, he has stuff in his house, like a gym, a home gym.
Did he have a gym that he would go to, like a membership gym?
Yes.
And would it be safe to say that Charlie Adelson had a wide spectrum of friends, correct?
Yes.
Would it also be safe to say that Charlie Adelson, I don't know if this would be a correct designation, but he frequented nightclubs?
Not, like, what do you mean by frequent?
Did he go to nightclubs in South Beach?
He went to nightclubs, it wasn't specifically South Beach when I was with him.
So he would go to nightclubs in multiple areas of South Florida. Would that be a better generalization?
Honestly, when I was with him, he didn't go to clubs like a lot. We went to Vegas one time and we went there to clubs and to Miami once and like maybe Fort Lauderdale, but it wasn't frequent enough like that, so.
And you began dating him in 2015, correct?
Yes.
So you don't know what his frequency of going out to nightclubs was in, let's say, 2013
Right.
or 2014, correct?
Yes.
And you also wouldn't know whether or not he was doing cocaine in 2013, correct?
Right.
Or 2014, correct?
Yes.
But he did smoke weed in front of you.
Yes.
Did you smoke it with him?
I have, yes.
Now, you ended your relationship with him because he was cheating on you, right?
That was the primary reason. Yes.
So he was withholding things from you, correct?
Right. We were on a break and got back together and found out
That he got another girl
girl pregnant. Right.
Now, the prosecutor asked you if if you were ever introduced to any gang members by Mr. Adelson, correct?
Yes.
Now, you don't know if you knew any gang members in 2013, correct?
Right.
You don't know if you knew any gang members in 2014, correct?
Correct.
The only information you can give this jury is what occurred in your relationship, which started in October of 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, with regards to the fact that Mr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson, had gotten another female pregnant, you were hurt by that, correct?
Of course.
And when the police spoke to you on that interview in summer of 2018, the police told you about the stapled money, correct?
They told me about it?
Right.
No, because when they showed up, they were conversating with me, so it was mentioned. It was during a bad time when we weren't together that they testimonied me. So.
Okay, so did they bring up the stapling of the money? They did, right? The police? Did they, let me rephrase it. Did they ask you about stapled money?
They asked me, yes, about.
You didn't bring it up on your own, right?
Right.
You said that you spoke to Mr. Adelson yesterday.
Yes.
Was he going to ask you about your testimony today?
Objection,
No.
hearsay.
She's already answered.
The answer's
Find
no?
the objections untimely, but I sustain those objections for further purposes. You can move on, Mr. Sangha.
Yes, Judge. Give me a minute.
You may.
I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Do you have any children?
No.
You were asked questions about cash inside of the house. You remember that, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, Charles Adelson was a generous guy, right?
Yes.
In fact, at one point you explained in your statement how you had counted the money because he would give loans to people, to friends.
He helped out friends and gave loans. I didn't physically count the money he gave out to them, no.
Fair enough. But you knew that he would lend out money to people that needed it and they would pay him back.
He's told me, yes.
Help me understand this a little bit. The law enforcement came and spoke to you at one point in time. You remember that, right?
Yes.
And this would be July 24th of 2018, if you remember?
Right.
It was investigator Sherry Bennett of the Tallahassee Police Department. Is that correct?
Yes.
And an FBI agent,
Yes.
Patrick Sanford.
Yes, I have their cards. I can't quote their exact names, I'm sorry, but I believe that's them.
Was the agent medium height, shaved head?
Yes.
Now, you had said, I don't know if it was on cross-examination or direct examination, that they had banged on your door before?
Multiple times a prosecutor or whoever came to my residence would knock and repeatedly come back, you know.
You didn't open the door though, right?
Well, no, a few times I wasn't home. My roommate was, and then another time, no, I never caught them like at my place and opened the door, no.
If you can explain to this jury, in Miami, somebody bangs on your door, possibly a couple of men, are you quickly opening that door, or are you concerned to open that door in Miami?
Well, definitely concerned. They actually just did it to me to come here. So a day or so ago, they were banging at 6 a.m. and I was sleeping, so.
For you to come here today?
Yeah, then I got blocked calls, like calling me, so I didn't know, you know, who was behind the door. and I have a guard at the gate, and they didn't call me, so I was really worried.
It's scary
Yes.
for a woman. And in Miami, it's an even more scary thing because there's a lot of threats out there in Miami, right?
I guess in South Florida, anywhere, yes.
Two strange men come banging on your door. You're concerned and may not answer the door. Fair?
Just any banging, yes, would be a concern to me.
Agent Patrick Sanford, investigator Sherry Bennett, they sit down with you to talk to you. Isn't it true that they told you you're not being recorded? This is all going to be confidential. Nobody will know about it.
Yes.
Objection, hearsay?
Overruled.
Yes.
And then later in time, you find out that you were in fact being recorded.
Yes, I believe when I spoke, I had to do another testimony, and that person told me.
So law enforcement can in fact secretively record you if they want.
They did, yes.
Let's change gears. Talk about Charles Adelson and his work. What did he do for work?
He was a periodontist, or he
No.
is a periodontist.
Would you have termed him a traveling periodontist, that he went to different locations, that he was routinely at different locations?
Primarily, yes.
Now, you were in a relationship with him, and you explained it kind of off and on between October 2015 and June of 2017. Did
Yes.
you get familiar with his work practice?
With the Adelson Institute, or with his schedule, you mean?
Schedule's the better way to say it.
Yes, of course.
Would he be at the Adelson Institute every day, 8 o'clock in the morning there until 5, or was he all over South Florida?
He was all over. He had appointments at different offices. He stopped in his frequently as well, if needed.
Now let's talk about Miss Magbanwa. You were asked questions about whether she did or didn't work for Charles Adelson.
Yes.
Do you just not know the answer to that question?
No, I mean, when I was with him, we never spoke about Catherine working for him. I didn't even know who she was. So during that time, I didn't know. Right now, obviously, I know he mentioned that she did.
Yeah.
So, and his parents said she did. So,
You having been his girlfriend at the time, would you think that there may be objection if you had found out that his ex-girlfriend was working for him? That could maybe cause a problem?
maybe.
Do you think it's reasonable that he would say, hey, I'm not going to share this with her. She may be upset that Catherine's working for me, Miss Magbanwa?
Maybe, yes.
Let's talk about his friends. It's my understanding that after this case hit the media, that he had some falling out with a lot of his friends. Is that correct?
Yes.
But he kept a few of them, a few friends. He maintained a few of them, right?
Are you talking about at this moment, or, within the last 2 years or so?
All I have to go based on is your statement in July of 2018, correct? Well, my question is this. Was Sully one of the friends that he maintained?
Yes.
Do you know Sully?
Yes.
He's a mechanic, right?
Yes, he was. He just sold his business, so he's doing something else now.
And that business was the eco-friendly body shop.
Correct.
What does he do now?
He got another position and moved to Orlando. I'm not 100% what the title is.
When you met with law enforcement in July of 2018, you said that you were mad at Charles Adelson.
Yes.
And that may have influenced what you said when you were meeting with law enforcement.
Definitely. I felt like I was very vulnerable at the time, so when they showed up, it was kind of like conversating with, somebody that had sympathy for what I was going through. It was just such a terrible time for me while the other woman was pregnant. So it was during all that time when she just had the baby. So yes, I was very upset.
At him, at Charles Adelson.
Yes.
And do you believe the investigators played on your emotions?
Yes.
Now, let's go in the months and the years prior to that. You had seen about this case in the media, right?
Yes.
In fact, at one point in time, they confused you with Miss Magbanwa, and the news posted pictures of you online.
Right, and at that time also, I didn't even know about the case, so they took whatever I said and spun it around. And
Between you somehow being dragged into it and also you dating Charles Adelson, who was in the middle of it, you then began to look at a lot of the media stuff, right?
yes,
And you were well versed on the case when you started talking to law enforcement in July of 2018, right?
right, they advised me of the case right there in front of his house when they showed up.
But what I'm getting at is that you knew about the case well from the media, right?
No, I never knew about this case at all until I pulled up to his house that day, and the person outside told me about it.
It will help me understand this because I'm getting a little bit confused. That day that the media pulled up in front of the house, that was well before law enforcement came and met with you, right?
About a year ago, we were still together then, yes.
When you say a year ago, you're not talking about a year from today, you're talking about 2017, a year prior to the statement?
Yes,
All right, so 2017, you get confronted by the media. They put your picture on the internet. They confuse you with Miss Magbanwa. You then get involved in all the media, and a year later, you then have this conversation with law enforcement, right?
right.
And at that time, you're really mad at him.
Yes, I was everything like depressed, horrible.
All right. Let's go to the final topic. Prosecution asked you about how his mood changed at one point in time. He was, I think your words were that he was stressed and irrational. Is that correct?
Right.
Would you agree with me that it was obvious through the media, through everything that you had seen, through Ms. Kappelman herself on TV, that they were trying to build a case against Charles Adelson and Catherine Magbanwa?
Definitely.
One brief second, Your Honor.
Good day.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect.
Ms. Umchinda, you mentioned that prosecutors were at your door. What prosecutors were at your door?
I don't know because I didn't answer the door.
Do you have any reason to think that I or any member of the prosecution team ever came to your door?
I don't think you would physically come. It was probably a server or something.
Like law enforcement?
Right.
Okay. I was looking at the beginning of the taped interview, and investigator Sherry Bennett, who was the female that came to interview you, indicates at the very beginning of the transcript that she's putting the date on the...
Objection hearsay?
She's putting the date down. You know, today is 7/24/2018 at 6:30 p.m. We're here with June. Okay, so we can just go ahead and talk. I just want to put the date down. What did you think? That didn't clue you in that she was recording the interview?
Well, I would think she was taking notes.
Okay, did you see her taking notes?
I can't really remember. I believe there was paper and pen around. Someone was notating.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, any juror have a question of this witness? We'll go sidebar. I believe you indicated you talked to Charlie Adelson yesterday. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was that by phone or in person?
It was by text message on the phone.
Okay, so did he text you or did you text him?
Yesterday. I'm sorry, I was flying. I'm trying to think of exactly yesterday. Yesterday I texted him first because I left work.
What?
I texted him I was leaving work at lunchtime to go on a plane to come here. So I texted him first to let him know.
And did he respond?
Yes.
And is that the only communication you had, or did you talk to him also?
We just talked throughout the night, like, you know.
Texting back and forth?
Yes.
Okay. And prior to yesterday, when was the last time you had talked to him, either in person or by text or email?
Maybe 2 days before or the night before.
Ms. Kappelman, any follow-up?
No follow-up.
Garcia?
Give me 1 second, Judge. Nothing else from Mr. Garcia, Judge.
McMahon?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. Do we need to keep her any further?
No, sir.
Don't need her any further.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused. Go about your business.
Thank
Have
you.
the next witness, please.
The state calls Yindra Velazquez-Mascaro.
All right, if you would face the clerk here and raise your right hand, please.
You swear from testimony about giving this case to be true, whole truth, and nothing but true stuff to go.
I do.
Have a seat, please. May proceed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
My name is Yindra Velazquez-Mascaro, YINDRA-VELAZQUEZMASCARO.
And where do you currently reside?
Miami, Florida.
Are you working?
I am.
What do you do?
I'm a title insurance agent.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Catherine McBanois?
I do.
And how do you know her?
Childhood friend, and she's the godmother to my child.
Childhood friend, what?
And she's the godmother to my child.
How many children do you have?
2.
And she's the godmother to one of them?
To one of them, the youngest.
You said your childhood friends. Did y'all go to high school together?
We did.
And did you maintain a close friendship in high school?
No, not in high school.
What about after high school?
Yes.
When after high school did y'all start to become
My
more-
25th birthday, to be exact.
And when is your birthday?
October 5th,
Of what year?
1986.
I'm sorry to ask, but
It's okay.
1986.
Correct.
So if y'all reconnected or started getting closer on your 25th birthday, that would be around October 2011.
Correct.
Was it after that time that you had this child that Catherine McBanois became the godmother to?
Yes.
And when was that child born?
She was born 3/4/15.
Do you know Sigfredo Garcia?
I do.
How do you know him?
Childhood friend as well.
Did he attend high school with you and Ms. McBanois?
Not really. We just knew each other from the neighborhood and stuff like that. We all grew up together.
How would you describe the relationship, or strike that? Did you also know him due to his involvement with Ms. McBanois?
Correct.
And what was their relationship like?
They were dating for a pretty long time.
They started dating in high school, didn't they?
Yes.
And they were on again, off again throughout the course of their relationship?
That's correct.
What about Luis Rivera? Do you know him?
I do.
How do you know him?
Childhood friend as well, and I know his brothers and sisters.
Is he older than you all?
Yes.
Did he go to high school with all of you?
No, ma'am.
Do you know whether or not Catherine McBanois knew Luis Rivera?
Through Sigfredo, yes.
Were Catherine McBanois and Sigfredo, or strike that, were Catherine McBanois and Luis Rivera very close?
No, ma'am.
What about Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera? Were they close?
Yes.
Would you describe their relationship as being brothers?
Yes, ma'am.
You were aware that eventually at some point Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia were arrested, for this incident. Prior to that, say back in 2014, 2015. Did you know of Luis Rivera being in a gang?
No, ma'am.
I want to ask you some questions next about Ms. McBanois' employment. Are you familiar with her employment over the years?
Yes.
Or at least after your 25th birthday when y'all got
Yes.
closer. When you first reconnected with her on your 25th birthday in October 2011, where was she working at that time?
She was doing brand marketing, like for different clubs and that stuff, and the dental office as well.
So brand marketing is doing what exactly for clubs?
So when there's like different liquors that they're trying to introduce into the club and stuff like that, she would do, you know, like the tastings and stuff like that outside of the clubs.
Kind of like promotion.
Correct.
And that she had started at the brand marketing and then started working at a dental office.
That's correct.
And the dental office that she worked at, where was that located?
South Beach.
And do you recall the dental office name?
Sophie something. I don't remember.
Does Sophie Dental sound
There you go,
correct?
Sophie. Yes.
And approximately what year did she start working at Sophie Dental?
It was around the same time that we reconnected, so I would say it was in the 2011 portion of the year.
Would it refresh your memory to see your deposition transcript?
Sure.
As to when she started working there? Take it up one moment, Judge. While I'm looking for that, do you recall how long she worked at Sophie Dental?
Not really, no.
Do you know what she did for them?
I believe she worked on the front desk.
At some point while she was working at Sophie Dental, did she stop doing the liquor promotion or the brand
Yes.
marketing?
Yes.
While she was still at Sophie Dental, did she pick up a new, different job in addition to the dental office?
During the time that she was at Sophie Dental?
Yes. Did she start working at Club Fate then?
Yes.
And when did she begin working at Club Fate?
I don't recall the year.
Now here's the time I want to, would your depo
Sure.
refresh you?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
For defense counsel, I'm on page 31, line 16 through 25. If you could just read silently to yourself here on page 31. And let me know when you're done reading.
2013. Right there.
Okay, so she began working at Club Fate. She began working at Club Fate in the latter part of 2013.
Correct.
What did she do for Club Fate?
She did bottle service and bartending.
So she was doing Sophie Dental and Club Fate, or only Club Fate at that time?
Mostly Club Fate. At one point, she stopped working at Sophie Dental.
So there was a time period that those two employments overlapped, but eventually she quit the dental office and just did Club Fate.
That's correct.
How long did she work at Club Fate?
A couple months.
Did she tell you why she quit working there?
They were having issues with their accounting, and she was getting paychecks that were bouncing, so she was over it at that point.
So at Club Fate, she was receiving paychecks?
Yes.
They just weren't going through.
Correct.
So that's why she quit there. And then did she start working somewhere different?
Yes.
Where did she start working at that time?
Hollywood Live.
Did you work at Hollywood Live at the same time that Ms. McBanois did?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you quit working at Hollywood Live?
Shortly before becoming pregnant. Well,
When-
finally when I found out that I was pregnant
And this is the pregnancy.
with my second child.
Okay.
I found out in July of 2014.
So you found out you're pregnant. It was actually July 4th, 2014.
That's
is that right?
correct.
And you quit shortly before finding out you were pregnant on July 4th, 2014?
Yes.
Eventually, did Catherine McBanois quit working at Hollywood Live as well?
Yes.
Did she quit before you or after you?
Before me.
So I'm trying to create a timeline. If you quit before finding out you were pregnant July 4, 2014, and she quit before you, she must have quit before July 2014.
Yes.
And approximately how long before you quit did she quit?
I want to say it was about a month and a half, maybe 2.
So maybe April or May 2014 she
Yes.
quit? And I'm not trying to be rude, but the court reporter, I need to make sure I finish my question before you give your answer so that it's clear for the record.
You got it.
I know it's hard to do that. So if you quit prior to July and she quit maybe a month or 2 before, would it be fair to say she quit Hollywood Live maybe May of 2014?
Sounds correct.
Do you know why she quit working there?
She was over the club scene already. She didn't want to work in the clubs anymore. She got tired.
What is the next employment for Catherine McVanwell that you know of?
She started working at a dermatologist's office.
Do you know the name of that dermatology office?
I do not.
Do you know who owns that dermatology office?
Charlie's best friend and former roommate. I don't remember his name.
When you say Charlie, who do you mean?
Charlie Allison.
How long did she work at work at the dermatology office?
It was just a couple of months.
Where did she work after leaving the dermatology office?
She was working with me again at Optimar International Realty.
What was she doing at Optimar?
She was an assistant to one of the realtors.
How long did she work as an assistant to one of the realtors at Optimar?
It was for a short period of time. She stopped working in May, end of May of 2016.
Do you know why she quit working at Optimar Realty?
Well, Mr. Garcia got arrested. We were going to be going out of town, and when that happened, it just threw her off. She just stopped working.
So her last day at Optimar was the day Mr. Garcia was arrested.
That's correct.
Speaking of Mr. Garcia, did you ever know him to be employed or have a steady job?
I only knew of the last job that he had right before he got arrested.
And do you recall what that was?
I don't remember the first word of the business, but it was something capital funding, if I'm not mistaken.
If I said the word, would you maybe remember it?
Yes.
Was it rapid capital funding?
Yes.
But that wasn't until much later, like in 2016.
Yes.
Prior to that, you have no knowledge of his having a steady employment.
No, ma'am.
You mentioned earlier that the owner of the dermatology place that Catherine McVanwell worked was, you said, Charlie Adelson's best friend and roommate or prior roommate. How do you know Charlie Adelson?
Because he was dating Catherine.
Do you know how long they dated for?
I don't recall the exact amount of time, but it wasn't, I want to say maybe a year.
Did you ever meet him during that time?
I did.
Do you know how they met?
Yes. He was a specialist that would come into Sophie Dental, and they met because she worked in the front desk.
Was he a regular doctor at Sophie Dental?
No, ma'am. He would be called in specifically for certain clients that needed him for implants or whatever it was.
And he's a specialist, he's a periodontist.
That's correct.
Okay, so just every now and then he'd come in and that's how they met and began dating.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that the time frame of their relationship at least had to have initiated during her employment at Sophie Dental?
Yes.
Do you know when they stopped dating?
I don't recall.
When Miss McVanwell was dating Charlie Adelson, did she bring Mr. Adelson around you a lot?
Just a couple of times. It wasn't like all the time that they were together or anything like that, but we did hang out a couple of times socially.
But you would describe it as rarely seeing him.
Yeah, I didn't see him much.
Did she talk about him much?
No.
When Ms. McBanwell was dating Charlie Adelson, was Sigfredo Garcia still in the picture?
Here and there, he was just pretty much in her life for the kids at the moment.
Say that again?
For the kids, mainly.
But he was
Here and
actually trying to be a better father and
Yes.
get back in the relationship
Yes.
with Ms. McBanwell? Would you describe Mr. Adelson as being wealthy?
He's comfortable.
I mean, he has a lot of toys and money, right?
Yes, but we also live in Miami, where,
So wealth is relative, maybe,
yes.
in Miami. But he did own a limousine.
Yes, he did.
He owned multiple vehicles.
Yes.
He owned jet skis,
Yes.
a boat.
Yes, a small boat.
He had a place on the water in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
During the time that Ms. McBanwell and Charlie Adelson were dating, were you aware of Ms. McBanwell getting a breast augmentation?
Yes.
Do you know how she found the doctor to perform that breast augmentation?
Apparently, Mr. Adelson knew the doctor.
Did she tell you how much that surgery would cost?
She predicted it was going to be about $6,000 or $7,000.
And you mentioned that this breast augmentation was during the period that she was dating Charlie Adelson,
Yes.
right? Who took care of her during her recovery after the breast augmentation?
Mr. Garcia.
Did you ever meet Charlie Adelson's sister, Wendy Adelson?
I did.
And when did you meet her?
Father's Day weekend,
Do you recall of what year?
2015, I want to say. It's on my depo.
I'm looking for it. Would that help you remember if I can
Yes.
find it? May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
For defense counsel, I'm on page 98, lines 4 and 5.
Till 14.
It's the
Yes.
Father's Day of 2014.
Yes.
What were the circumstances surrounding your meeting Wendy Adelson?
We just met up at the pool and at the beach, downstairs from her parents' place.
That's down in Miami?
Yes, correct, in South Beach.
And who all was there that day?
Charlie, Katie, myself, and sister.
I'm going to show you a photograph with some evidence of State's Exhibit 36. Do you recognize the people in the photograph?
Yes.
Who is the individual on the far left?
Katie.
Catherine McBanwell?
Yes.
And who is the individual in the middle?
Wendy.
And then who is that on the far right?
Me.
Thank you. And if that photograph had, every picture has data associated with it, if the data associated with that photograph says June 15, 2014, do you remember that being consistent with Father's Day in that year?
Yes, because my child was with her dad that day.
Once, and I don't think you've been able to remember a time frame for when Catherine McBanwell and Charlie Adelson broke up, but do you recall it being several months before Ms. McBanwell got back with Sigfredo Garcia?
Yes.
And when did Ms. McBanwell and Mr. Garcia get back together?
I want to say it was the Pacquiao fight, the night of the Pacquiao fight.
And that's you're referring to the
Manny Pacquiao boxing match, yes.
The Pacquiao-Mayweather fight.
Yes, the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, that's
Does
correct.
May 2nd, 2015 sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
And she had broken up with Mr. Adelson earlier in that year, maybe January or
Yes.
February
Yes, that's correct.
2015. And once they resumed their relationship after the May 2015 Pacquiao fight, did they begin living with each other again?
Yes.
At some point, did Ms. McVanoa drive a Mazda,
Yes.
a white Mazda?
Yes, ma'am.
Did there come a time that she began having mechanical problems with the Mazda?
Yes, she did.
Do you remember if those problems were prior to the Pacquiao fight in May 2015 or after?
They were continuous, honestly.
All the time problems with
Yes.
the Mazda? Fair enough. Do you know who paid for the repairs to her Mazda?
I do not.
Did Mr. Adelson, meaning Charlie, ever give Catherine McVanoa a car?
Yes, he did.
And when did he give her that car?
When she stopped driving the Mazda, because that's it, the Mazda just stopped working altogether.
Do you recall the Lexus? Did you already say it was a Lexus? I'm sorry.
No, I just
What-
said it was a vehicle. It was a Lexus. It was a black Lexus.
I apologize. So
It's okay.
this is the Lexus. And you don't remember when he gave her that Lexus?
No.
Was she working at Optimar at that time?
She was.
So this would have been late 2015, early 2016?
Yes, that sounds right.
And she was with Sigfredo Garcia at that time.
She was.
Was the Lexus a brand new car?
It wasn't brand new. It was older.
It was an older model. Had you ever physically been inside of it?
Yes.
How would you describe the condition of this Lexus?
It was well kept.
Would you describe it as pristine?
Yeah,
Those are actually your words.
that's correct.
Did Catherine McVanoa indicate that she purchased that vehicle from Charlie Adelson?
No, ma'am.
Did she ever say anything about giving him any money at all for that car?
No, ma'am. Not to my knowledge.
Was it your understanding it was a gift?
Yes.
Now, she's had mechanical problems with the Mazda. Does she then begin to have mechanical problems with this
Yes.
pristine Lexus?
Yes.
And she was still dating Mr. Garcia at that time?
Yes.
And do you know who paid for the repairs to the Lexus?
I do not.
I want to jump back a little bit in time to 2014.
Okay.
Was there ever a time that Ms. McVanoa asked you to watch her children?
Yes.
When was that?
July 2014.
July 2014?
Correct.
And was it weird for her to ask you to watch her kids, or normal occurrence, or what?
No, normal. I mean, if she needed a favor, I would do it. If I needed a favor, she would do it, in regards to the kids.
Do you know why she didn't ask Mr. Garcia to take care of his kids?
No.
False speculation.
I'm asking if she knows.
Overruled.
Do
I
you
do
know?
not. I do not.
So she leaves the kids with you, and did they stay with you overnight?
They did. They ended up falling asleep, so they just stayed there. There was no point of her picking them up. It was too late in the day.
Then the next day, did you receive a call from Ms. McVanoa?
Yes.
And what did she tell you at that time?
She had told me that Charlie's brother-in-law had an accident.
What kind of accident?
It was, they literally said an accident.
So you watch her kids. Next day, she says Charlie Adelson's brother has had an accident. Brother-in-law. And did she say what, if anything, Charlie Adelson was going to have to do because of that accident?
That he was going to go up to see what the situation was, and to see his sister and make sure everything was okay.
And this was July 2014.
Yes.
Did you later find out that that accident was Dan Markel being executed in his garage?
Correct.
Do you remember when Sigfredo Garcia was arrested? In this case, I believe earlier you said it was May 2016?
Correct.
And y'all had plans that weekend?
Yes.
What were they?
We were going to Disney.
And who all was going on that trip?
My ex-husband, myself, my 2 kids, Katie, Mr. Garcia, and the 2 kids.
And did Ms. McVanoa continue to go on that
She did not.
trip with you all? After Mr. Garcia was arrested, what type of contact did you have with Ms. McVanoa after that?
Not much. Here and there, I would just ask her how the kids were doing and how she was holding up.
You would describe it as her kind of going off the radar, right?
Yes.
She didn't really talk to anybody at that time?
No, ma'am.
Has she ever, meaning Ms. McBanwell, ever talked to you about Mr. Garcia being arrested?
No,
Or any of the news stories
No.
Around this case?
no,
Are you aware of any relationship between Catherine McBanwell and Charlie Adelson's parents, Donna and Harvey Adelson?
with Harvey, yes.
And what was the nature of that relationship?
She would get dental work from Harvey,
So purely professional?
yes.
Did Catherine McBanwell ever work for the Adelson Institute?
Not that I'm aware,
Did she ever work for Charlie?
not that I'm aware.
And I apologize, Charlie Adelson. Did she, I know you said not that you're aware, but did she ever say anything to you about employment with the Adelsons?
No.
If I could have one moment, Your Honor.
No.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You know?
I'm showing you what I've marked for identification as State Exhibit 60. Do you recognize the people and objects in State's Exhibit 60?
Yes,
And how do you recognize them?
that's Katie and Charlie.
And do you recognize any of the vehicles in this photograph?
That's the Lexus that was driven, and that was Charlie's vehicle at the time.
Okay, and are these accurate depictions of the condition of those two vehicles, the Lexus as well as the, is that a Mercedes?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry, being driven by Mr. Adelson
Yes.
during the times that you testified about today?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I'd offer into evidence State's Exhibit 60.
Any objection?
None from Mr. Garcia?
Only objection, Judge, is she can't testify when that was taken.
So what?
She can't testify to when it was taken. She said during the time that she's testified to, that's over a 2 year span.
Do you have any idea when this was?
I do not. I know that those are their vehicles, but I do not when that was taken.
Can I ask an additional question?
You know?
And my main point here is, are these accurately reflect the condition of the vehicle in question, the Lexus that was given by Mr. Adelson to Catherine McBanwell?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll overrule the objection, admit the. Good night.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Garcia.
Good morning, Ms. Velazquez-Mascaro. I pronounced that correctly?
Velazquez.
Velazquez, I apologize. I represent Secretary Garcia. I'm going to ask you some questions with regards to your involvement, as well as your involvement in this investigation, as well as your testimony today, okay?
Okay.
So, you indicated that you've known Sigfredo Garcia since childhood, correct?
Yes.
You also indicated that you knew Luis Rivera also since childhood, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you describe childhood, would that be teenagers or before that?
Before that.
So, 8 years old, 10 years old, something around there?
Around there.
Okay, so you would agree with me, so around 20, 25 years you've known Luis Rivera?
Yes.
You ever gone to the beach with Mr. Rivera?
The beach?
Yes. I mean, we live in South Florida, right?
As in, like, gone to the water and gone to the beach
No,
with
no.
him?
Ever been socializing with him outside during the summertime?
No.
Did you ever go to the pool with him?
No.
Did you ever spend any time alone with him?
No.
So when you say he's a childhood friend, this is just someone that you met at an early age,
Correct.
and that he would it be closer to say that he was maybe an acquaintance versus a friend?
Yes.
Would you call him on your cell phone?
No.
Have you ever called him on your cell phone?
No.
And in today's day and age, I have to ask, have you ever text messaged him?
No.
Send in an Instagram direct message?
No.
A Facebook, Facebook message?
No.
A tweet?
No.
Okay. So this is simply someone that you've known kind of at arm's length, right?
Yes,
And they also asked you, the government asked you, if you knew whether or not Mr. Rivera was a Latin king, correct?
yes,
And your answer was no.
no,
And you'll agree with me that, as you indicated before, this was kind of an arm's length relationship, correct?
correct,
Have you ever seen Mr. Rivera without his shirt on?
no,
Were you aware that he had a gigantic tattoo?
And
Of a,
Mr. Sanguinet, she just said she'd never seen him with his shirt off, so move on.
no problem. Were you aware that he had a tattoo on his stomach?
no.
Let's talk about your knowledge of Charlie Adelson, if you don't mind.
Okay.
When did you first, if you recall, remember hearing Charlie Adelson being mentioned?
When when Katie was working at Sophie Dental, she told me about him.
And roughly, what was the month and year of that?
I don't recall. She asked me, and I don't recall.
What year was it? 2013? 2014?
I want to say it was 13. Yes.
13. Good. And you indicated that you heard Charlie Adelson's name from Miss McManawa, correct?
That's correct.
And you heard it in a reference to, I met a guy,
Correct.
a cute guy,
Yes.
a rich guy.
She didn't say rich. She just said he was a cute guy, nice guy, that, was giving her attention.
At any point, did you believe that they had an actual relationship other than just some guy that she met that was cute?
No. I just thought they were casually dating.
Were you aware if Mr. Garcia had knowledge of this casual dating?
He did.
Was he happy about it?
He was not.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being happy about it, 10 being furious, was he more like a 10?
Yes.
Would you say the number 10?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it doesn't get any higher than 10, correct?
Correct.
And you'll agree with the members of this jury that Mr. Garcia, my client, wanted to have a relationship with Miss McManaman, correct?
Correct.
At any time, did you see Charlie Adelson with my client?
I did not.
If my client would have seen Charlie, based on your knowledge of how angry he was about the relationship, do you think that my client would have attempted to attack Mr. Adelson?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Do you think my client would have helped Mr. Adelson?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Are you aware of the theory in this case?
Theory for whom?
The theory of the government.
Objection, rebuttal.
Sustained.
Give me a second, Jim. You indicated on direct examination that it was the Pacquiao fight, Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, where my client and Miss McManawa got back together, correct?
Rekindled, yes.
Rekindled is another word of saying that they were back together.
Yes.
Okay. They were boyfriend and girlfriend again, correct?
Yes.
And this was, the prosecutor gave the exact date, May 2nd, 2015, correct?
Correct.
You watched the children as a result of a favor from Miss McManawa the night before Dan Markel got shot, correct?
Correct.
And that was in July of 2014.
Correct.
So from July 2014 to May 2015, that's about 10 months?
More or less.
During this 10-month period, was Katie seeing Mr. Adelson?
Yes.
when did Miss McManua get her cosmetic surgery?
October.
Of 2014?
Correct.
And this is the same time she was dating Mr. Adelson, correct?
Yes.
Charlie Adelson.
Yes.
And by dating, I am making a reference that they were still romantically involved, correct?
Correct.
So they would, to your knowledge, were they sleeping over at each other's house?
I wouldn't know.
To your knowledge, were they romantically involved?
Yes.
And by romantically involved, I mean having sex.
Yes.
So after July 14th, Miss McManua was still having sex with Charlie Adelson, correct?
Yes.
And in October, several months after Mr. Markel was murdered, Miss McManua got breast enhancement surgery, correct?
Correct.
And the doctor that she went to was at the direction of Charlie Adelson, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Garcia's level of anger about this relationship, maybe now a 12?
Are we still on a scale from 1 to 10?
Correct.
Well, if we're at 1 to 10, then it would be 10, not 12.
You'll agree with me that, well, let me ask you this. One of the things that the government asked you about was the Adelson Institute, which is the dental institute, correct?
Yes.
And the owner of that institute is who?
Harvey.
Harvey Adelson. So if someone were to do research on the institute, he's the owner, correct?
Correct.
And by research, I mean if someone goes on Google, the Adelson Institute would be related to Harvey Adelson, correct?
Correct.
Now, you indicated that during her recovery time from her augmentation surgery, that my client took care of her, right?
He did.
And that would be at Miss McManua's home, correct?
Yes.
Where they have children in common, correct?
They do.
And after my client cared for her while she recovered, afterwards, she was still dating Charlie Adelson, correct?
Yes.
And by dating, I mean having a sexual relationship with Charlie Adelson, correct?
Correct.
So now maybe my client's anger is at a 13 out of 10?
Possibly, yes.
No further questions.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll take 15 minutes. We'll let the jury step out. Anybody else? Either side need anything?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody need anything?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear.
Anybody need anything?
Oh, no, Judge.
All right.
Can I have
All right, 15 minutes.
Can I have some water?
What?
Can I have some water?
You can step down.
Oh, okay.
Come on back to the stand in 15 minutes. 10 minutes. All right, we'll be in recess.